Hey, Simon from Wolfmix here, and today we're going to be looking at some more advanced ways that you can use MIDI with the Wolfmix W1 MK2. So if you haven't seen it already, check out the standard tutorial on MIDI with the Wolfmix W1. Here I explain how to map some faders with some dimmers and how to map some presets as well. But sometimes there are some other ways that you might want to use MIDI. For example, maybe you want to connect with a computer and use a piece of software like QLab for triggering the presets to synchronize it with a show. Maybe at the same time you want to be able to use some faders, and maybe you want to run a MIDI cable from a DJ mixer to synchronize some MIDI clock. Now the Wolfmix only has one USB socket. So it's just got the single USB-A socket, and it's not possible to connect a USB hub to the Wolfmix. It can only handle one MIDI device at a time. So a way to get around this is to use a MIDI Merger. So this is one I have from Kenton, and basically it allows you to run up to 4 MIDI inputs, and then it will merge these together and it will send it out of the output. Now it does require a little bit of cabling. So, it might be something you want to build into a flight case or into a system. So we need to start with a USB to MIDI DIN adapter. So this is one I have from a company called CME. You have to make sure this is a generic MIDI USB and it doesn't require a custom driver. I know Yamaha make one which requires a custom driver, that won't work. And then this is the MIDI input now into the Wolfmix. So I can connect this to the MIDI out of the Kenton box. Obviously it would require some power here, but once powered up, any MIDI message coming in any of these 4 sockets will be sent to Wolfmix. So for example, I could have a MIDI cable here that could be coming from a Pioneer mixer. And that could be sending MIDI clock. So I could put that in connection 1. Then in connection 2, maybe I have a USB MIDI adapter connected to a computer. And that could be firing off some cues from QLab, for example. So I'll connect that to MIDI in 2. And then finally, I want my USB, my Akai, controlling the faders. Now here comes a little problem. This is USB MIDI, so I'll connect the USB cable there. But now I've got this USB-A socket, and I don't have a USB socket for MIDI in the back of this box. I only have MIDI DIN. So that's where this piece of equipment comes in handy. This is a USB MIDI host by a company called DAW MIDI. And basically what this allows you to do is to connect a USB like this, and it will turn that message into a MIDI DIN signal. And now I can connect this MIDI DIN signal from the output and into my Kenton box. Once this is connected to the Kenton box, I've now got my QLab MIDI, I've got my MIDI from my Pioneer mixer doing MIDI clock, and then I would have MIDI coming from here doing my MIDI from my Akai APC Mini. Now these buttons require MIDI in as well to light up the buttons. So this is the MIDI out connector from the Wolfmix, so this would go in the MIDI in socket, like so. So as you see, there are a lot of cables and boxes, and it does start to get a little bit tangled, but we're expanding the system here to synchronize the Wolfmix with so many other devices. So this will be an occasion where you'd build everything into maybe a rack or a flight case or something like that. But at the end, there's only 2 cables in the Wolfmix anyway, plus your DMX cables. So that's some other ways that you can use MIDI with the Wolfmix W1 MK2.